And welcome back. John in Los Angeles. Hey, John, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, thanks for listening to my call. Listen, I just want to say that there are remedies to all this malarkey that's going on. There, it's in the U.S. Constitution. When they decide to use the laws that our forefathers gave us, this will be over. Threatening government officials of the United States is a felony offense under federal law. And there's actually a 5-year statute of limitations, so I don't care if she was a congresswoman. It applies to every citizen. And it's U.S. Code 18, 875, 876. And, until somebody gets killed, I guess they're not going to take it serious. Oh, that's right. Somebody already did get it killed, and they're still not taking it serious. And one more quick point. You know why Trump walked out of office like nothing was even bothering him? Is because nobody's doing anything. He should be tried for treason, cut and dry. Yeah. Try to overthrow the country. With you. And if they feel that taking a Twitter account is, I think George Washington would had a little bit more than taking away his Twitter account away from him. He would have had a little, he would have executed him right on spot. But Tom, I love you guys, and they're coming after us next. If this is all a symbolic impeachment, he's not going to get voted out because you got traitors and both sides, really. Not a lot. Well, a lot more, more so in the Republican side. But until they take their oath of office with the genuine, oath of office, then same old, same old. But I love you guys. In other words, I'll be donating later. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, John. In other words, and thanks for listening to KPFK. In other words, until we, these guys take their oath of office seriously. Barbara in Sun City, Arizona. Hey, Barbara, what's on your mind? Thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Hi, honey. Okay, somebody needs to Google Neon Revolt. He is a big QAnon influencer who turns out to be a guy named Robert something or other, who's a screenwriter. He lives in New Jersey, and he's a big influence under Neon Revolt. Just Google it. But the gal who was caught in the Capitol, who wants to go to Mexico, was at a rally, and Dana Rohrabacher, I am openly an agent of Russia, was he a congressman from California?
Yeah.
Was at the rally. So I'm just kind of going into who are these people. Everybody's like, oh, it was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's still alive. I mean, let's get real. There are actually really people. It could be Putin. It could be, Dana Rohrabacher at a QAnon rally with a woman who's in the Capitol, and then this disgruntled screenwriter whose agenda was to create crazy stuff to get back at the fact that he wasn't successful as a screenwriter and lives in New Jersey now, which, interestingly enough, was kind of mentioned by Trump once, that it could be a guy in his basement in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who came up with a crazy idea that they were trying to put on Trump.
I think as we dig deeper and deeper into this, Barbara, we're going to find that there are these webs of connections that are really rather distressing. Barbara, thank you. I don't know about the specific person that you mentioned, and I can't endorse that. But Dana Rohrabacher has long been problematic. We'll be right back. Nicole in Memphis, Tennessee. Hey, Nicole, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to say I think we ought to coin this new wing of the Republican Party as the Neo-Confederate Party because they do espouse Confederate views. They fly the Confederate flag. And I wanted to make one point, too, about the seeds of racism in the minds of white supremacists. In the South, I grew up with hearing the belief that not only the belief that slave traders actually did slaves a favor by bringing them here, which is a horrible thought. And they actually resent black people for wanting rights, and they really think that black people should be beholden to them for having brought them here in the first place. So I just
I remember, Nicole, when Louise and I moved to Georgia, We'd never lived in the South before. We moved to Atlanta. And when my son, who at the time was 7 or 8 years old, came home from school, and I was like, well, what did you learn in school today? And he was like, well, we studied the War of Northern Aggression. And I'm like, what? Anyhow, back to you, Nicole.
Well, I just wanted to make that point because I think, a lot of times we talk about, what racism is seated in. And I think sometimes people really don't get how deep these beliefs go, how far they go back and how deeply they're held. And a lot of times I think people don't even realize that those thoughts are in their head. So.
Yeah. No, it's like it's the air you breathe in the South. It's in the soil.
Memphis has come a long way. I want to say, too, that Memphis has come a very long way in its fight for equality in the city. And this city went heavily for Biden. And I'm so happy for that.
Yeah, same thing with, the town where Louise and I lived, 13 years, I think, in Atlanta. Yes, spot on. Thank you very much. Thank you for the call, Nicole. Well said. Susan in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Susan, what's up?
Yeah, I was just thinking about when they were talking about free speech, and what came back to me is what happened during McCarthyism and how they demonized communists so badly. Today, they don't even have a voice at all. They silenced them by how they handled McCarthyism, and it might be a strategy that the Democrats could use, putting them on trial in front of all of Congress and eliminating all of them.
I don't think, because somebody else did something that was very, very wrong, I don't think that we should be doing that. McCarthy, yes, his witch hunts and the communists in the State Department and all that kind of thing. Although I would say that the reason you're not hearing from communists today is because, the communist experiment in the Soviet Union failed. And, there hasn't been a really successful communist country pretty much anywhere that has been able to balance communism at the level of a country with some semblance of freedom and a free press. I mean, even Cuba has struggled with this. Louise and I spent a week down there a couple of years ago, and, they've done a lot of good things, but still, it's this delicate balancing act, and they're having to, they're starting to embrace some programs. But I totally get what you're saying. And go ahead.
There's also another group that we've silenced, and that is, wasn't Al-Qaeda recruiting in America for a while? And the FBI came along and took down all their websites and their YouTube videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the corporations got in on that act. Yes, absolutely, Susan. And there are means, but I think that using the heavy hand of government, and I realize that that's a favorite phrase of the right, but nonetheless, government is the only agency in our society that has the authority, the legal authority, to put a gun in your face and pull the trigger. Using that hand of government to do things that can be done without the power of government. I would always go for the without the power of government first, and that's what we're seeing right now. It's not government that is talking about taking away Marjorie Taylor Greene's committee assignments. It's members of the House of Representatives operating within their own workplace, essentially, by the rules that they themselves have established. But I totally get what you're saying. Jim in Voorheesville, New York. Hey, Jim, you have the last minute this hour. What's up?
Okay, Tom, my question to you is, do you have any information or knowledge about whether the voters of a specific state whose representative or senators are aligned or sympathize with the extreme right wing can be recalled by the voters of that state?
Depends on the state laws. Different states have different laws. But generally speaking, you'd have to look on a state-by-state basis. I have no idea what the law is in New York with regard to, your ability to recall or whatever the, word might be used there for your elected officials. But, at the end of the day, you've got an election coming in a year and a half. You've got primaries starting in about 6 months. And, these people are going to stand for re-election. They're going to stand in their primaries, and Republican voters are going to be deciding whether their party is going to be the party of fascist crazies or whether their party is going to go back to being the party of Dwight Eisenhower that was at least, somewhat embraced by Americans. And, it's a serious issue. And Republicans need to, particularly Republican voters, need to be taking this very seriously.